Minutes can be the difference between you getting your offer accepted and not. That means that minutes can be the difference between you making tens of thousands of dollars or zero. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is exactly how to use two different technologies to help speed up your offer writing process in order for you to make more money. Now, when you're getting started in writing offers and learning how to do the contracts and all that, it can take over an hour to write your very first offer. But in reality, it should take no longer than 5, maybe 10 minutes in order for you to craft your offer. So what we're going to be sharing with you is how to combine templates built into ZipForms, as well as using the MLS Connect feature. So let's get right into it about starting with how to create templates using ZipForm. So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be screen sharing to show you click by click exactly how to be able to put together your very first template. Now, when you log into ZipForms or Lone Wolf Transactions ZipForm Edition, whatever you want to call it, it defaults to sharing with you the actual transactions view. What we're going to be doing is we're going to actually change up here at the very top header row to going to templates, and we're going to change to forms and checklists. Now, as this time upon recording this video, we've recently updated to a new revision of the RPA, or the Residential Purchase Agreement. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually delete my previous templates, and now I'm going to start from very much scratch so you can see click by click exactly how to create your very first ZipForm template. So what you're going to be doing here on the top left-hand corner of the screen is you're going to be clicking on New, and you're going to be creating a new purchase or offer, because I'm speaking to you in the context of how to create an offer template to speed up your offer writing process. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a new name, and I'm just going to create this as the offer template. And I'm going to have this apply to residential transactions, because that's really what I want to do. And if you want to, you can automatically apply it every time you create transactions. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to say no. As well as when you begin creating templates, you can use a template to help build your new template. So you can create customized templates for any situation you are so choosing. What I'm just going to do is a basic offer template, and I'm going to start from scratch, which is exactly the way that you're going to be doing it as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, and it's going to open it up as if it is the same looking thing as a regular transaction. So don't get confused. We are still in the templates section. So we're not actually creating a transaction or the offer itself. What we're doing is we're creating the template to then apply to all transactions utilizing this template. So the big definition, or the big difference between a template and a transaction, is a template is something that you're going to use every single time you're creating new transactions. So I'm not going to add a buyer's name in my template, because I'm hopefully at least working with different buyers all at the same time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to now just start with all forms in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And I'm just going to say California Residential Purchase Agreement. Now, this is not a training on how to write an offer. So everything that I'm going to be putting in here, do not construe that as a mandate or a recommendation of what you should be putting in your offers. This is solely to help you understand how to create a template to then make your offer writing process easier. So consult with your broker, your manager, your team leader, your mentor, who's ever guiding you along your real estate journey on what you should be putting in these templates. I'm really focusing on how to actually do the click-by-click version of it, the more procedural technical training, not the sales training. That's for another topic for another day. But what I'm just going to be doing right from here is starting from the residential purchase agreement, clicking here. And what I'm doing is starting from scratch with nothing on here, but understand that everything you add to this template will apply every single time you're going to be utilizing this template. So it's starting here at the agency disclosure, and I'm going to check the box for buyer, because every time I'm using an offer template, I'm going to be using it for a buyer, not necessarily a tenant. But I'm not going to put a buyer name, because again, hopefully at least I'm working with different buyer clients and not always the same. Comma/caveat. You can create custom templates. Let's say you are working with an investor that you're writing offer after offer after offer with them. You have the ability to do that here, where you can actually say, I'm always going to be using the same buyer. And you can call this your investor template for, John Smith and Associates, whatever the heck is you're working with. But it's always going to be you. So in full transparency, I work with First Team Real Estate. as well as our DRE license number 01008773. And then it's always going to be me typing this in, and I'm going to have mine 018999247. In case you so care about what my license number is, that's mine right there, because I'm always going to be writing my own offers. So then I'm not going to be having the date prepared, because that's always going to change. Because remember, every time you utilize this template, it's going to be taking everything you add in here and adding it here. So what I'm going to also do is I'm going to select that I'm representing the buyer, because more often than not, I am representing clients on other properties, and it's not going to be my same listing or my same brokerage's listing all the time. So I prefer to add this in. And if it so changes, I can always switch it on the actual thing itself. Now, I don't know who the listing agent is on this, because again, this is a template that it's for all transactions. So I'm going to be leaving that blank. Additionally, I don't know what the price is going to be. I don't know what the close of escrow is going to be. Expiration of offer. If you always shorten your expiration of timeframes, boom, maybe you want to put it in here. But because it's date-based, I wouldn't recommend it. So what you can do here, initial deposit amount, you could either say 3 business days, which is the default, or me personally, I like to say we're going to be getting in the very next business day. So that's what I put in my personal template. Again, this is not a recommendation from me to you. Consult with your manager, consult with your team leader, your mentor, broker, who's ever guiding you along this process. But again, filling in what you put in more times than not to help speed up this process. Do you consistently ask for the seller to pay the obligation using the SPBB? If so, I would recommend checking the box. So that way you help ensure that you get paid and not making your buyer completely foot the bill. Different topic, different time for a sales conversation, right? What do you usually do for all of the other details? So again, at the sake of sanity, I'm not going to go through and explain every single thing and why you should or shouldn't do it. That's for a different training class. This is just how to create the template itself. So what I'm going to be doing is just going through and just adding in the things that I personally like to do, but it's up to you on what you like to do. So let's say that you're saying 10 days on average for you. Let's say 10 days here, and let's say you're always shortening, or you're always making these a little bit shorter. Up to you. Again, not a mandate, not a recommendation. This is just what I'm personally putting in on mine, just to kind of show you what you can do here. Putting this here, putting this here, adding it in. What do you usually do for possession? Do you generally let people do COE +3? I'm going to leave it as the default for the notice of recordation. You know, what do you like to do for all of these items? I personally always ask for the stove. Sometimes it's hit or miss for a refrigerator. I'm just going to add it in there just in case I forget to take a look at it. You know, washer dryers, it's up to you. You know, I generally ask for the dishwasher, generally ask for the microwave. But again, what types of things do you regularly put in there? Now, this is where you can add in the allocation of cost, who pays for what, based upon what you generally like to do in your market area. But I generally like to say seller, environmental. And again, this is not a recommendation. This is just personally what I generally put in there. I generally put seller's choice, but it's up to you. Again, this is not a mandate. This is not a recommendation. So I like to just put those in there. If you generally ask for the optional wildfire disclosure, it's up for you. Or if you don't, you can generally leave it blank there. Again, what do you generally like to do on all of these? General point of sale, seller. If you have it, if it's applicable, I generally will say if applicable, right? Escrow fee, each to pay their own. Again, this is not a mandate. Generally what I put in here, but it's up to you. I always recommend that you support your family of services, whichever brokerage you are at. Owner title policy, again, generally on ours, it's seller will oftentimes pay for that. And I'm just adding this in here. Again, not as a mandate, not as a recommendation. I generally say seller, if applicable. Again, HOA transfer fee, if you're in a regular area that does that, very common in my area for home warranty plans to be somewhere around $900 or anything like that. If it's a single family residence, generally somewhere around $650 to $700 for condos. Again, in mine, I tend to say buyer's choice on this. Again, not a mandate, not a recommendation. That's what we're doing here. And I usually say buyer's choice of upgrades to here to make sure that they get that full value of what they're getting. Again, now you can add in anything that you as an agent individually add in for the majority of your transactions. If your brokerage has additional addenda or advisories that they recommend, this is where we would put it in there to have that every single time. For the sake of your sanity, for the sake of discussion, I'm going to leave this blank because, again, mainly showing you how to create this, not what you should necessarily put in there. Consult with your manager, your broker, your team leader, your mentor, anybody along those lines, right? So this is where you would put in any additional details that you regularly put in. But what I'm going to do, just for the sake of conversation, I am just going to go ahead and hit save. So now I have created my offer template itself. And now I'm going to share with you, now that you have an offer template, how can we now utilize it to make your offer writing process that much quicker? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to hit the back button, which is going to take me back into my ZipForms account and defaulting it into the view screen that we're about to see right now. And what I'm going to make sure that we're now doing is we're now going to be into the transactions tab, because what I'm going to be doing is actually creating a new transaction utilizing this template itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a new purchase or offer. And I'm going to title this training video offer sample, whatever the heck it is. Personal recommendation, how I was always trained, what always helps me is I always title a buyer transaction, the buyer's name, and a listing transaction as the address, because oftentimes if you're working with the same client, but one on the buy side, one on the sale side, you obviously want to have those separate, because that way it doesn't kind of auto feed itself. However, what you want to make sure that you do is how to distinguish between the two. So I've always taught that it's the address when it's a listing and the buyer's name whenever it is a actual buyer sale itself. But what we're going to do, we're going to click on residential, because that's what we're going to be pretending to do, an active property. Now I'm going to select a template to start off with. That way I don't start with a blank page. I actually have something ready to go. So I'm going to say my personal offer template is what I'm going to start with. Now, instead of hitting save, I'm going to take one extra step, and I'm going to click up here and say MLS Connect. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm actually going to change screens to my view screen of my Matrix account for the CR MLS, because I have a board of realtors that utilizes the Matrix system for our user interface. Let's just click on a random listing over here. Let's click on Rain Dance here in Rancho Santa Margarita. So let's say you were about to write an offer on this particular property. Rather than having to copy, paste the address, the price, the agent's name, the DRE license number of the brokerage and the agent themselves, rather than having to go down here and always highlight, copy, paste, and that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to only do one copy paste, and that is here at the listing ID number, and I'm just going to click copy. I'm going to switch back to my ZipForms, and I'm going to click paste. Now, what I'm going to do is just click find, and it's going to search through the MLS to see if they can find that property. More times than not, it can. Sometimes it can't, and then you still have to do it the long way, unfortunately. But now I can say use this listing, and now what it's going to do when I hit save, it's going to automatically create a transaction utilizing the template that I've already created for my info. And then it's also going to utilize the MLS Connect feature to pull the listing agent's information. So what I'm going to share with you here is now we have our purchase agreement here, and let's pretend I'm going to use John Smith as the buyer client. Now I'm going to scroll down, and now it's going to pull up the residential purchase agreement, joint escrow instructions. Now take a look at this. It already has the address. It already has the city itself, Orange, the county itself, as well as the APN number it even pulls. Now, it also has the agent's information with their DRE license number for their brokerage, as well as for them personally. I also noticed, now looking at this, I didn't use this checkbox on my template. So now I could have saved myself an extra click, which I will go back and update my thing later. But now all I have to do is click on today's date, which is October 10th as recording this video. Now all I have to do is fill in the purchase price, the initial deposit, any loan amount, but everything else, take a look. Everything else is already included, depending upon what I want to do for my offer. Of course, caveat, all of these terms need to come from the buyer. So of course we want to get their agreement on all of these things, but we all know, practically speaking, we generally have similar ways of writing offers time and time again. Again, none of this is a requirement. None of this is a recommendation of how to write these offers. This is specifically how to utilize these two pieces of technology, ZipForm templates and the MLS Connect feature, to make your offer writing that much faster. So I hope this was helpful today. Again, my name is Jacob Lawlor, Career Director here at First Team Real Estate, and I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope to see you in escrow. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.